Hey y'all, my name is Kyle Kurzall and welcome back to the Automate Me Please podcast. Today, my co-hosts Emma Duncan, Mike Jackson, and I are going to be getting into some very interesting AI developments since the last time we recorded one of these episodes. Hey guys, how are you doing today?
Good, I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good too. I'm excited for you to walk us through all the really, really cool things that have happened the last couple of weeks. I think that this is exciting for me just to kind of sit back and listen and participate and kind of see how we can utilize these new developments. So I'm excited to hear what's going on.
This stuff is so fresh that I feel like we just kind of have to get it out there. In a couple of weeks from now, it'll be old news. So our last couple of episodes, we've talked about AI ethics in particular, and then AI safety kind of mixed into that. And then before that, I think was our episode about some of the new tech, like the Mirage app. If you guys remember that, where people were able to create these AI avatars and then generate like ads and stuff like that. This is kind of along the lines of that. And I think for entrepreneurs, this is especially going to be super helpful. So instead of beating around the bush, let me just say what it is that we're going to be talking about. So there's really kind of two major developments that have happened over the last couple of weeks. One is the release of GPT-5. So there's some changes there that I think would be worth discussing for folks who are trying to figure out how to use ChatGPT the best. And then the other major development, which I believe was even just last week, was the release of Nano Banana from Google. So for anybody who's watching this who doesn't know what Nano Banana is, it's a new AI image generator / editor. And it really does shine through in the image editing. Particularly, it lets you kind of create slight variations in the image. So you could say, hey, remove this element, or hey, add this element here. Things like that were much harder to do with previous image generation techniques. So you guys are in for a treat today. Emma, Mike, I'm going to be looking to you guys to help me come up with some crazy fun things to test, because I think that's going to make this a lot more interesting for everybody if we could try to push the edges of this a little bit. So what do you guys think? Are you guys excited about that? Or is there something in particular you guys want to try creating?
Emma?
I don't have anything at the moment, but both of them sound really intriguing and exciting. So I might let you take the lead and pick which one, and we'll just dive into it.
Yeah, and I'm super excited to learn more about ChatGPT 5. I'm excited to learn more about Nano Banana. Can we start with Nano Banana? Can you tell us what the big deal with Nano Banana is?
Yeah. So really the thing about Nano Banana, which is driving people insane online, is that it really creates some fantastic looking images. And it really is this ability to kind of edit the images, which is really key. If you guys have you guys ever tried to play with image generation in ChatGPT before?
Yeah, it's not always that great.
Yeah, I've struggled with it too, and I've gone with programs like Midjourney before, and I've tried those, and for some reason I can never get the consistency that I'm looking for, and I think that's the real issue that I've had anytime that I've used sort of image generation software.
Yeah, it requires this really specific knowledge about how to prompt it, which I think has made it very challenging for a lot of people. You have to say it in a very interesting way, like a scene filled with beautiful flowers in the middle of the desert, and then comma, and then you add your next thing, and then you have to say, oh, okay, I want it with this kind of picture lens or something like that, like 4K, SDR, all these little things. And a lot of people don't know how to do that kind of stuff. Most people don't have that technical background in photography to kind of know how to structure those prompts. I think what you'll find today is Nano Banana actually does a pretty good job taking some general language and creating more of the type of thing that you really want. And then when we want to go in and we want to edit an image, so this is one of the things that really stood out to me, is when I've tried ChatGPT in the past and I've said, hey, I want that same image that you gave me before, but I want you to tweak this one little thing about it. It almost regenerates a completely different looking image. And Nano Banana does a much better job at more selectively choosing things. Now, it's going to fail, like sometimes, right? It's still a new tech, but it's much better than the previous generations. So does that help answer your question, Mike?
Yeah, it does. I'm really curious. I'm trying to figure out, Em and I, the novices here, right? When we go to use an image generation program, and like you said, Cal, we're trying to create an image of a hill with flowers on it and a beautiful home on top of the hill or whatever. We can give that prompt and it's going to give us 100 different versions every single time we try to do that, basically, right? Nothing's going to be similar, at least as similar as we want it to be. And so is that the big difference between this release and what's been released before?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it, is it's more consistent, right? Like it's more consistent to what you wanted or to a previous style that you had provided it. So one of the keys that you guys are going to see today is it doesn't just do image generation from scratch, but you can actually provide it an existing image or even two images and then ask it to tweak those things or to combine them. So that's going to be the thing that kind of stands out, that I think this is going to make image generation for entrepreneurs that much better. So you guys can think of like really practical use cases. And as we kind of go through it, be thinking about other applications that we can talk about after too. But like some of the initial things that come to my mind are, well, I could do like product placement, or something like that. Or I could take, let's say, Mike, I wanted you and Emma to be my models for, some new service that I'm offering. Well, I could take a couple pictures of you guys and then I could maybe blend those into some different backgrounds and things like that. And it's seamless. So that's kind of where my head goes with some of this stuff.
Can we jump into it, Kyle? Can you kind of show us how it works and all of that stuff?
Yeah. Let's get right to it. So I'm going to share my screen, and then we can start. We'll cut the waiting time out for our audience. But what we'll probably do is even grab some images from online or take pictures of ourselves and things like that, and we'll play around with it to kind of show what's possible. All right.
Very cool.
Let's share the screen. Okay, can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So where I'm at for you guys and for our audience is the Gemini app on Google. So you can access this by going to gemini.google.com. And it's going to load this up. It's going to look very similar to like ChatGPT because it's got their whole chat interface built into it. Like you can choose your models up here. You can choose your tools down here, all this stuff. So this is going to look familiar to a lot of people. You can also access a lot of this stuff if you go to Google's like AI Playground. So those are like the two main places. I just find this to be a nicer interface to work with for the most part, especially if you're not used to doing all the technical fiddly bits on the back end. So let's say we want to generate an image, and I'll give it one that like I was playing with yesterday. So I want to do a Japanese sailor in, let's say, sitting on a bench overlooking a cliff behind which there is an ocean. The sailor holds a McDonald's burger in one hand and a Coca-Cola in the other hand. The setting is a breezy day by the ocean, and the style of the image is a traditional Japanese art style. All right, so that's our prompt. Japanese sailor sitting on a bench overlooking a cliff behind which there is an ocean. The sailor holds a McDonald's burger in one hand and a Coca-Cola in the other hand. The setting is a breezy day by the ocean, and the style of the image is a traditional Japanese art style. So we'll go ahead and, before I do that, I've got to remember to turn on Nano Banana. Let me Let me make sure I copy my prompt so I don't lose it. Create image. Okay, we're good to go. We'll hit submit. And so that's going to take just a couple of seconds for the image to actually generate. And then what we can do is we can start making tweaks from here. So that was pretty straightforward. What do you guys think?
I think like the beginning, it seems really easy. So I'm intrigued to see like when we go in and we start making adjustments, what that looks like. Because what my experience is with, say, Canva AI, right? Like going to Canva and working in there, it's like, I like that one option that you gave me, but let's tweak it. And then next thing you know, it's like, it's still starting from scratch, right? So I want to see how this keeps the original, but makes those slight adjustments.
Awesome. So let's do that. Let's go back here and let's say, please create the image, but replace the burger with an ice cream cone. So we'll give that a couple more seconds. Now, what I found is if it starts to deviate too much, what you can do is download your original image and then you can upload it back in here. But you guys can see this image looks almost exactly the same aside from the ice cream cone that was replaced in his hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. So what other capability, Kyle, does this have? Let's say that we create this image. What else can we do with this image inside of Nano Banana?
Yeah, so what you should be able to do, at least what I've seen people do, is take two images and then combine them in some way. So let's maybe do a different version of this. Give me a prompt for something else that you guys would like to see.
Emma, you're creative. Why don't you do it?
Well, I was thinking if we're going to go with the route of like laying it over, so maybe an ocean with a sailboat during a storm or something along that line. Because if you're the idea is to merge the two together, that would be similar but not similar.
Okay, so let's try this. So let's say a stormy ocean. Let me make sure. Okay, a stormy ocean with a sailboat tossed by the waves in the middle of the day. So I didn't give it any like specific type of style. So it may default to a more realistic style. But what we can do, all right, so we've got our two images here. So let me download this. And I got to say, that actually looks pretty darn good. We could have probably tweaked that a little bit if we wanted it to look like a certain art style. But let's say now we want to combine those two. So let's take the two images here. So we'll upload that one and then we'll upload the other one here. And then let's say, please add the sailboat and the stormy waters to the original image with the sailor.
Sweet.
How well this is generating, is this free for people to use or is this behind some sort of a paywall?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it is actually free at the moment for folks to use.
Nice.
Now, if you wanted to use it like as an API call, that's going to cost some additional funds. And you'll be able to see that if you go to the Google AI like playground, it'll tell you how much the input and output is for using those API calls. So we went from this to now looking at this. So we've added some extra waves there and we've got our sailboat. So you can see it's actually preserving the style of the original image.
Yeah.
So what we could do is we could also, let's say, please, let's see here, how do you spell Pomeranian? I think that's how you spell Pomeranian puppy sitting on the ground in let's say a new age style. Let's see what that comes up with. And in theory, what we should be able to do is then recombine this new Pomeranian with our original image in some way and kind of give it some direction. Okay, so we got our little Pomeranian. So let's maybe download our Pomeranian here. Just so that way we can control it a little better, let's also go ahead and download this image. Let me pull that. There we go. And this is something that would be interesting, worth trying, is seeing if we can just say, hey, please add the Pomeranian to the previous image. It may actually be able to do that, since you guys were able to see in this prompt here, we said recreate the image but replace the ice cream cone. So it had some sense of the image. It may work without us having to download it, but I just want to be like really specific in the control that I have over it. So we're going to do these two images here, and then we're going to say, do you guys want to go put the Pomeranian into the picture with a sailor, or do you want to go vice versa?
I want to see that Pomeranian in that image.
Okay.
With the sailor.
Please add the Pomeranian in from the new age picture to sit beside the sailor and look out over the water. So we'll see how this does. It may have some trouble if we're changing the pose, but this is a great test case, right? We're testing the bounds of this to see what's really possible with it. There we go. So now we've got a cute little Pomeranian kind of looking out over the water. It's interesting because it's looking in the same direction as the sailor. So maybe that is giving it some clue, hey, that's the direction that it needs to look.
That's really, really good. So it seems to me like this Nano Banana, its real strength is recreating consistency across images, and then being able to combine images into one, even adding things like certain brands or product placement or things like that into it. Am I understanding the benefit of Nano Banana correctly?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I have a good example for you guys. So let's do one more sample here, and you'll kind of see what it's really possible. What's really possible to do with it, because I think what's really neat here is that it preserved the style of the original image, right? Which also implies that things that are supposed to look real will also stay real. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload, I did this as a test for myself before. So I'm going to upload an image of myself, and I want to say, please add a 50 pound. Oh, this may not be the right one, actually. Let me delete that one and choose the one with my empty palm. So I'm like, you may not be able to see it very easily just yet, but I'm like pointing and I'm holding my hand up like an empty palm. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to say, please add a 50 pound dumbbell into my hand. Okay, so we'll say, please add a 50 pound dumbbell into my hand. So while it's doing that, you can see this is the original image. I tried to make my face look smug to see if it's going to tweak, the facial expression or anything like that. And so after it generates, we should see it modify just this area here with what's in my palm. So there we go. We got a 50 pound dumbbell in my palm, and I could adjust that further if I wanted to say, hey, make it look like I'm holding a 50 pound dumbbell. So please modify the image so that I'm holding the dumbbell in my hand.
How particular are your words? So modify versus change, would that really impact the way that it's working on the back end or not?
That's a good question. So my understanding at the moment from what I tested is that it's probably, going to have similar results. I'm making that assumption because it seems to do a pretty good job following some general English instructions. Now, you do have to be really very clear in your language. So you can't just, say vague things and expect it to figure out exactly what you want. But here we go. So now I've got that 50-pound dumbbell in my hand. You can see it looks like I'm actually grasping it. So that did a pretty good job overall. And the rest of the image is unchanged. So we got that little spot there just like we want it. And we could probably change it around in all sorts of ways. All right, guys, is there anything else you want to test?
You know, Kyle, where my brain kind of goes on this is, can we input a bunch of images, maybe of ourselves, and then can we say something like, take the features of myself in the images and then have me do X, for example? Instead of holding a dumbbell, can it take your image, your body in that image, and can it put you in a marathon race? A bunch of other racers, for example, can it put you into a different environment entirely?
Yes, the answer is absolutely it could. The more context you give it, the better it's going to do. So what that would mean is, I think this is the way you said it there, Mike, was right, is you want to give it a couple of different images of you, and then you could probably tell it, hey, like, put me into a race running down a track or something like that, right? And so you might want like to give it a full body picture of you, so that way it can do those kinds of things better. Otherwise, what it's going to do is it's going to try to make up things that it hasn't seen. So what you want to do is give it what you actually look like, and then give it the scene and tell it, hey, I need to be doing this and this and this in that scene.
That's interesting. I think that's probably how I would use something like this is for consistency across images as much as I possibly could. What does this compare to, Kyle? What other software out there would this compare to right now, just in terms of functionality? And is this one the top level in terms of that type of application?
Yeah, so there are a lot of different image editors out there. Some of these tools out there, like one of my favorites is Leonardo.ai, because what it has is it's supposed to be like a suite of tools, a suite of models and things like that. And when you go to use it, you can take advantage of certain features to like say, hey, I only want to replace this specific section, so you can kind of highlight it. But this is kind of one of the better models out there. It probably, at least as far as what I've seen, it is the best model out there currently for image editing, just using English language. So some of the other ones out there that I'm aware of, like Flux Context was one of the more recent ones that was doing a kind of similar thing to this. But it had some issues with like positioning and things like that. And it would sometimes fail in kind of weird ways. I think this is a lot more consistent overall from at least my initial tests.
What I see with this is I'm immediately going to branding and like social media, individuals that want to make multiple posts, whether it's with their image on it or not. It seems like this would be a great app to use and to be working with. Yeah,
I fully agree with that. And I think another use case that kind of comes to mind, just having done like a children's book before, was, if you needed consistent character design, something like that, then you could use your characters and then put your characters in different scenes doing different things. So that would be a really good use case too. Or for like business owners, I could see you using like a mascot, like if you've got like a mascot logo for your logo or something like that, you could start using that to generate your logo in different ways, probably a little bit more consistently. You could probably take different styles from different types of logos and things like that and say, hey, I want you to use the style from this logo for this. So you could start kind of mixing and matching things, I think, a little bit more accurately that way.
Right.
You could also, we were looking at like video editing recently, right? And I know you guys have seen like the VO3 stuff. So like, imagine like step one, and I think you've mentioned this before too, Mike, actually, like step one is, hey, let's generate maybe a picture for like the first scene, and then let's maybe create a couple more pictures for some other scenes and how it should transition. And then let's put that into our video editor and have it generate the in-betweens for all those things. So that would be a good way for folks to also be able to start generating more content automatically rather than having to explicitly film stuff.
Kyle, one of the things that has kind of frustrated me with this whole AI thing in general is that it feels like we're piecemealing a lot of these parts together, right, to make it all work the way that we want it to work, which, might be the way that we just have to deal with it. This is a Google product, right? And so is VO3. Is there going to be some sort of a platform where we can use that workflow, right? We create storyboard images, and then create the video based off of the images that we create first. Do we think it's going that way? Is it that way right now? What am I missing?
Yeah, it's definitely going that way. And is to some degree has already kind of started. So that Leonardo AI platform I mentioned to you guys before, they actually have access to VO3 in their platform. The fact that companies like Google are making these models callable through like an API means that they can be bundled up into singular services or platforms that maybe do a bunch of things. So I think we are going to be able to start seeing more cohesive platforms over time. It's going to take a little bit of time for them to be developed, right? What's kind of interesting is because of the time that we're in, I expect that we may see these types of things a little bit more rapidly than what we have seen for software products in the past. And that's just because now we have like AI to assist, coders like myself to be able to help iterate the process a lot more quickly. So, you can start giving it like documentation and say, hey, like I want to, develop this thing to do this with these specs. Here are some pictures of how I want it to look. And those pictures could be AI generated as well. And so it just speeds up the whole development cycle. And so I kind of expect we probably will start seeing these tools become, integrated more cohesively in the next probably 2 years. And we'll probably see some pretty major developments.
So, stupid consumer question. If I'm using VO3 in Leonardo, for example, am I paying more by using it in Leonardo as opposed to using VO3 directly inside of VO3?
That's a good question. I don't know for sure if they're just adding a margin on top or if they've got a specialized deal with Google, because they're already known as an AI platform for like image editing and stuff like that. So they may have struck a deal to say, hey, like we're going to pre-buy this much from you, Google, and then they just take the difference there. So it may be at cost with Google's VO platform. That would be something worth investigating. But if you're going to be doing that kind of stuff frequently, you could probably negotiate with these different platforms.
Okay, this is really cool. Emma, do you have any other thoughts on Nano Banana?
No, I look forward to playing with it here over the weekend.
Kyle, tell us, can we transition into GPT-5?
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about it. So, you guys have probably noticed ChatGPT doesn't look the same as it used to for you. There's less options now for folks.
Yeah.
So, before we get into it, how are you guys faring with it? Has it been confusing or has it been more helpful overall?
Personally, I haven't really noticed much of a difference. I think that the outputs, are clearer and better for me. But in terms of the inputs or my side of it, I haven't noticed too much. What about you, Emma?
I would say having the options of adjusting kind of the way that I was searching, it's been a new learning curve, right? To get used to the change again. But that being said, the speed of the content that I do get out has been nice. So it's just a give and take, right, of the change.
Okay. So I'm glad.
What about you? I'm curious what your response to GPT-5 has been.
I think I'm okay with it for the most part. They didn't take as many options away like from me compared to what I would usually do. So for folks who are listening, like the big changes recently have been that with the release of GPT-5, they have removed a lot of access to the older models, like the ability to select between different models. Like you had GPT 4.0 and 4.0 mini and O3 and 4.5, and you had all these different pieces that you could select from. And now they've kind of slimmed down the choices that you have access to this automatic mode, a thinking mode, and then like I think it's like fast mode or something like that. And
Right.
Instant.
yeah, instant. That's right. So they've slimmed down your options, and essentially what they've done, I'm sure they've increased some of the intelligence behind the scenes as well. But what they've done is they've added in this layer that handles routing, and that's kind of what's going on behind the hood. So when you put your prompt in, nowadays it's going to go to this AI router, and it's going to kind of figure out, hey, based on what this person is asking, and this is for the auto mode, by the way. So it's going to go into the router, and then it's going to figure out, oh, okay, well, this should go to maybe a longer thinking model, or this should be like a fast response model, or something along those lines. And then you can toggle on certain tools. Like you still have access to deep research mode. You can still turn on web search mode, things like that. So you still have a little bit of control there, but it's going to handle things a little bit more intelligently, which I think is overall probably better for the vast majority of users, because most people are just going to kind of want to use it and have it work for them, right? Like just make it work, and
Right.
and I think that's okay. Like as long as it's giving you some decent results. Have you guys been using the auto mode, or have you been like specifically toggling on like the thinking versus the instant mode?
I either use the thinking or the auto. Instant, I feel like I worry that it's going to be too shallow for what I'm asking and the things that I'm trying to get done.
Yeah, and frankly, I didn't even notice much of a difference in terms of the options available to me, which is probably, my ignorance is probably a good thing in that sense. Is ChatGPT, are they deferring to a model that just requires less compute, you think, just to make this maybe a little bit more accessible to more people? Is that why they decided to remove some of those options?
Some of it may have to do with cost savings, actually. I'm guessing that routing model probably has like a resource measurement piece built into it. That's an assumption, because obviously we can't see all the stuff that's behind the hood. I suspect the other part of this isn't just for resource optimization per se, but it has to do with also like making sure you're getting what you really, really need. There's also this piece of, hey, like, how do we reduce our maintenance over time? So, like most people aren't going to be aware of this because they aren't software engineers. But the more software you build, the more you have to maintain. And so if you have to keep those things up and running all the time, then you have to make sure, like, as you release new features and things like that, that you're not introducing bugs in the software that's already up and running. And so by reducing some of that's publicly exposed, they're probably also reducing some of their maintenance costs as far as like managing the software. So there's some other complexity that they added at the same time. So there's a trade-off, right? Like they're trading off one thing for another thing. But does that answer your question, Mike?
Yeah, it does. And Emma, I was kind of curious what you're doing with these sorts of things in the first place. What I've noticed since the last time that we met is that I'm going to an AI model to get my questions answered, as opposed to Google much more in the past month or 6 weeks or so. Even though if I go to Google, I'm going to get the AI suggestion or whatever it's called. but I tend to go to ChatGPT or Claude or something like that and just type it in, because I feel like I'm getting more information, or at least the information that I'm doing or that I'm looking for.
Right.
What are you doing with your searches? Are you still using the Googles of the world, or are you going more towards the AI models?
No, definitely AI. I mean, the only time I use Google these days is if there was a recipe that I forgot, and I'm like, I know I typed it in Google once upon a time, and so I'll go there and I'll find it really easily. Otherwise, any kind of searching that I need to get done, it's going to be in one of the ones that you've mentioned.
Kyle, with that in mind, have we seen shifts in search engine searches in the past 3 to 6 months? Have you heard anything with regard to that?
I haven't, but this would be very interesting to look at. I bet you there's some existing data out there that we could probably go find. And
how would we find something like that, Kyle?
I would use ChatGPT. I would use ChatGPT's deep research mode. I will say, I still do use Google too. And they're making their searches more valuable by adding that AI piece in. So that is helpful.
I did notice that yesterday. Like when I was in Google for some reason, it pulled up an AI like chat engine that wanted to help me like explore it even further. And in my haste to get something done, I was like, well, why would I do it there? I just jumped over to ChatGPT to finish up what I was doing. And but that is something that I need to pause and explore. Like, what is this AI search that Google has now?
I noticed that yesterday. Is that new?
I think it might be a little bit newer. I've seen like over time they've been adding, like the AI summaries at the top of their results and stuff like that.
Now there's AI mode. So if you go to google.com, there's AI mode for the search. I just noticed that yesterday.
Yeah. So they're trying to very quickly add integrations into their existing software, so that way it's more sticky and more useful overall, right? Because exactly what you guys are saying, I'm doing the same thing. Like I've been shifting away from using general search engines for most of the stuff I'm doing, because most of the stuff I'm doing is like research. Like I have very specific questions, and I don't want to spend all day looking through 10 different links or more to try to find the relevant information. I want to get the stuff that's really relevant to what I need, so that way I can move faster. And I bet you if we can find some data, like we're probably going to start seeing those. The question is just how much the change really is at this point, because I mean, I know we're a couple years in now, but there's still so many people who do not use ChatGPT, who do not use these AI models.
Right.
So it's like, okay, well, what percentage of the population really is using this day to day?
Right.
Can I expand on that just a second? I know it's a little bit of a diversion late in the episode here, but what I'm seeing from a lot of people is almost a fear in their reluctance to use AI instead of a search engine. Are you guys seeing the same?
I don't know if it's fear in the majority of people that I like think of. I think it's just it's a habit. Like we just open up Google and we just search, right? Especially like my parents or my older sisters. Like it's just it's a habit, right? They just, if they're looking for something, they go to Google, they search it. Individuals that are in some sort of work that AI is becoming more and more relevant, it's those individuals that if they're not doing it, it's out of fear.
Yeah, I think that's probably fairly accurate. I don't have a lot of data on this, but I do have an anecdotal experience. So about a month or so ago, my wife was like talking to me about how to use ChatGPT, because she'd seen that I used it, and she didn't really use it that much before. But after I kind of showed her how to use it and like how you write a prompt and stuff, and she started to get used to it, she's like, oh my gosh, I love this. Because she's using it for even things like drafting up workout plans and helping her do some research for things that typically she would have spent a long time trying to gather. And, for her, she's somebody who's more technically averse. Like she doesn't really want to mess with tech. She would prefer not to have a phone or computer at all, if at all possible. So for folks like my wife who maybe are a little afraid to switch tech, or like it feels hard, because you get so ingrained, like you were saying, Emma, like you're so used to this one particular tool that now you have to go learn this other thing, and then there's all these new features and stuff like that. It can
And the
feel a little
constant
overwhelming.
updating and
Yeah, sorry, say that again.
the constant updating, right? It's like, well, you're making me learn something new, but like it might not even be the same in 3 weeks, and then I'm gonna have to learn it all over again, and that just is too much stress, right? And so then they don't go down that route.
Yeah, so I think there probably is a little bit of a mix of what you said, Mike, and then some of it is just the pain of switching tools, and that's a pretty common thing, I think, among all people in all industries. Is changing tools is like pulling teeth.
I think we get stuck in the things that we like and are consistent with, and we know that produce good results, and who knows where this is all going. But I'm kind of curious what your perspective is, Kyle, on this. I think we're starting to see some sort of trends, right? For example, the image generation for Nano Banana, we're seeing much more consistency across images. With ChatGPT or OpenAI new releases, we're also seeing their own trends. What's the general trend line, do you think, with regard to the OpenAI, Claude, Anthropics, the LLMs? What are we thinking in terms of the general trends here? Where's it going?
I think we're headed towards Agentic AI, which is like maybe for folks who haven't really heard that term, it's like AI that can go do things for you. So this is, we're in early stage of like information aggregation, and we're going to start seeing more and more these AI being able to actually go and do things in the real world. I mean, it's already happening. It's happening with like the AI phone receptionists that can book appointments on your calendar, or add data into your CRM. We're seeing it integrated into our existing tools and things like that we're already using. So I think we're going to see more and more of these things, and we're going to shift more towards, hey, like we almost have our own little AI employees that we kind of spin up and we have running for us and doing tasks for us. It'll take a little bit of time for some of these things. For example, like editing a video is something that requires a lot of, skill, and it requires a lot of human intuition to kind of figure out, oh, like I need to remove this or silence this, or adjust the sound levels here and things like that. I think it's a matter of time for some of that stuff to get automated, but that's probably a little further out on the horizon. And then there's obviously like manual labor jobs that are much further out on the horizon, like plumbing, for example.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting to follow these trend lines. I think now that I've been following this long enough, I kind of see where it's going to some degree. Kyle, you're the expert here, and Emma and I are just trying to follow your lead, but it's always interesting to hear from someone like you where this is going. So thanks so much for that input.
Yeah, thanks guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say, if you guys, I haven't had a chance to play with this yet, but maybe you guys start trying out like the ChatGPT agent mode that they have. You'll have to do in the web browser, but that might kind of give you a sense of what like agentic AI would look like.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, I think that's going to be the end of today's episode. Thank you so much for joining along with us and learning about Nano Banana and some of the recent changes to ChatGPT. We are always looking for more and more feedback. So we have a form in the description of the video down below. If you would take a second, go fill that out. We want to hear from you. We want to collect that feedback and then learn and grow, so that way this podcast is more valuable for you. So please take a second, fill that out, give us a like and a subscribe wherever you're watching, and we look forward to seeing you guys in the next one. Thank you, guys. It was a pleasure, as always, to hang out with you.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye.